So there are a lot of fans of Arakawa or the corkbark Japanese maples. What have you learned about working with them over the years?
Well, I have worked just by having them and losing branches and losing tops like many people. You see a lot of these in gardens or also on eBay for sale, which are not so expensive because something is wrong with them, have a broken branch or a broken top. This was one example. It doesn't look like this, but this was not so expensive because the top died. There were only these big fat branches here, and apparently it would have two tops, which is frowned upon. So this was not good. It has good nebara, but it was not as good as I made that much better. And it has this bark, and everybody admires this bark. Even people who have never seen bonsai really think, oh, this is wonderful. Why? Because they adore this bark. It looks very, very old. This is also very happy looking. I mean, this is extremely healthy for an Arakawa. There is not a single sign of a branch breaking. Well, here is one which is dead. By the way, I'll leave that in there. It's not allowed. Well, who says that? It's not allowed. Arakawas do that, okay? So I leave it. It's for decoration. You don't like it? That's your problem, not mine. Okay, so anyway, the crown died. So it was on the market, and it was, nobody took it because they don't know what to do. And maybe something else will die again. So I discovered the following, that I, not even thinking about Arakawa, have developed this method of letting trees grow a lot and cutting back 6 or 8 weeks later, and what I call hedge pruning. Okay, you may now be surprised. There's not a single tree in here which was ever pinched in spring in 10 years. Other than one that once I bought, they were pinched where I got them from. But here in this garden, I don't pinch trees, never. How can it possibly be? Well, judge by the results. If you have good looking trees here, what I'm doing is somehow right. It's certainly not orthodox what they teach you, but the result is right. And since I make it a point of every maple or even hornbeams or what have you, I let grow freely in spring. Don't pinch, I let grow freely. Maybe at 4 weeks later, I cut off the very top in order to not make that too strong. And then I leave the lower branches and the trees looks very silly. And then everybody says, well, you have to cut, and I get nervous, and then you still wait 2 weeks, and then you really cannot hold it anymore, and then you cut the whole thing. And as I do, I really do it because I have so many, I did it with a hedge pruning shear. Oh, terrible, this is a wonderful tree, you're ruining that. Oh, am I ruining that? Okay, do they all look ruined? No, they don't. So apparently what they say that I ruined the trees by just cutting back is not true. Now, what's the secret? The secret is that they then grow back, then they have built a lot of strength over these 6 or 8 weeks, and they have now enough strength to now say, okay, somebody cut all these branches, now I have to backbud, and now they have enormous energy stored, and they can backbud like more than the normal, they explode. So this is why a hedge is so dense compared to a normal tree, because of the cutting, of hedge cutting. Okay, so, nobody pinches a hedge in the spring. The books tell you that you in spring have to pinch, and that will cause shorter foliage, and that will cause backbudding, and then you have this nice tree. And then I say, okay, show me your trees. People have 20, 30 years, they have a tree. It does not really do that, because your book, unfortunately, doesn't tell you the truth. The truth is, if you have a shop, and if you want to sell trees, they should look very nice, especially in spring. There shouldn't be this long growth, and this is why we pinch them. It's not because it's good for the tree. It's not good for the tree. It's much better to let him grow, okay? However, it's kind of ugly. Now, I don't care much whether it's ugly or not. If it's good for the tree, it's good for the tree. Okay, and then I cut back, and then I let it grow again, and after 6 weeks I cut again, and then the third growth, then I do not cut back, I just wait until the foliage is off, and then I carefully, individually prune. It's not the hedge pruning anymore. And then I make the photograph, and you see, wow, that looks good. Okay, so where they tell me, oh, that it will get thicker and what have you, and you ruin the tree. Why is it that the tree looks so good? Because apparently what I'm doing works, and by the way, saves me a lot of time. I have about 50 trees to cut back. Okay, I have no help because I have no friends. So anyway, the Arakawa, well, just by coincidence, loves that. And this is what I found out. Everywhere I find these ruins, the Arakawa, which have some broken thing, I get them for cheap like this. Not very cheap, but still much cheaper than normal. And then I let them grow and cut back, and they don't drop tops anymore. Because this is a variety that simply hates pinching, it really hates it. And because pinching really is a weakening technique. You weaken the tree on purpose, mainly because to look good for selling, but also the next growth will be much smaller because it does have very little. In spring, every energy that he puts into the new growth, and that you pinch right away. And then there must be again new growth, and there's not much energy left. So the next one will be smaller, and that's what you do on purpose, and that works somehow. However, this is not good for Arakawa. They like to grow and then cut back. Okay, so as you see, my Arakawa looks very happy. The answer is still, if you have an Arakawa or if you want to work with them, you never pinch them. You let them grow. Now, if you still don't understand the hedge pruning method, go to the internet. It's well explained there.
One thing I like about this tree, of course the trunk and the roots are fantastic, as you noted, but more of the trees near the top are vertical than I usually see. What led to that development?
They are what?
Near the top of the tree, the branches grow fairly upright.
What led to that?
Yeah.
Because I just let these branches grow however they want to grow, and of course the tree does not always grow horizontally, goes up, because I dared to not look at bonsai books, but at real trees which are around me, and I can see that there is never this Christmas tree on top of a small Christmas tree on top of a big Christmas tree. There's always many branches which form a roundish sort of top, because I'm copying nature. And yes, your answer is correct. I'm not even thinking of that, because here in this garden, that's the most normal thing. But it's not taught in normal bonsai. Why is that? Because they want this fixed top with nice layers, and that unskilled labor can easily create in masses, and this kind of thing you have to really think about. Maybe that's it. Anyway, why you ask me why it is? Well, because trees grow like that.
Can you give us some tips for selecting containers for maples?
Well, first of all, you select a container size-wise the normal way. You look at the size of the crown, and 2/3 of that should be the length of the container. Here the container is a bit short. Why? Because this is too wide, but I will trim this. So when I trim this, it will be sort of okay. The next thing is you take the height of the container, and you take 2 inches above ground. You take the width of the trunk, and in the old books it says, and then this is the height of the container. Wrong, artistically wrong. Artistically, it's much better if that is much short, flat, about 50% or 60% of that width, and then it looks cool. And then you choose some sort of color or whatever texture, and for a very old rough bark tree, I could even easily take an unglazed. I don't believe that this law of unglazed to unglazed is really artistically valid. I take the sort of color and texture that fits to the tree, and that could well be an unglazed one with some structure, but this seems to be a glazed one. So anyway, and then you have to see the horticultural side. So I'm speaking first artistically. That's what you do, and for horticulturally, actually, maples would like a slightly bigger container. Okay, so, but as you see, they are quite happy here. The tree tells me that that's okay. many people will say, well, this container is a bit small. Yeah, yes, it's a bit small, but this is a big container. How many big containers do you have to change? Not many. So we will change it and get a new one eventually, not now, maybe in 2 or 3 years. And he would like it better, bigger. However, if it's in half shade, as you see, the sun is not fully there, and if it's watered well every day, and if it's not too hot, it's fine.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, so